All right, it's Friday, November 10th, 2023. This is ALI-M.O.N.Y, 16, Ali, Mayor of New York, where I talk for a little bit about what I'd do if I was the Mayor of New York. It sounds ridiculous right now. It really does. It's such a ridiculous thing to want to do. And as I said, I don't want to be mayor, but I'd love for these ideas to be taken, borrowed, utilized. All my ideas are out there for the city of New York and the world. And how do we make this a greater, better city? It doesn't need me to do it. I'll do my part. If I see a piece of garbage, I'm not in a hurry. I'll pick it up on the street that I have businesses on or live on. To be mayor, I mean, what a task. I mean, you got to really want to do it. And the best you can hope for when you're done is either that was the worst mayor in the history of New York City, or, yeah, things seem a little better, or things seem about the same. But that's really all you can hope for. Most likely you'll get, that was the worst mayor in the history of New York City. But what is it to leave a city better? It's to leave it with cleaner streets, safer streets, freer streets. If whoever comes in that period of time is able to make the streets cleaner, and again, it's not rocket science. It's painting fire hydrants. It's painting mailboxes. It's collecting garbage. It's good garbage cans. It's fixing sidewalks that are broken. It's making the sidewalks ready to become futuristic sidewalks when we pour some type of heated rubberized material to walk on. I mean, by this point, I thought I was going to have sidewalk streets like you have in airports, but nonstop from one sidewalk to another. It's the future I was promised, along with suitcase cars and steak pills. When I was a child and the Jetsons were on, that's when I thought we were going to get to. And right now, we just have to hold the line by having clean streets, safe streets, free streets. Then from there, you can begin to look at schools and children. And what age should they be voting? And I'm someone who thinks they should be voting by 16. And what time should they go to school? And I believe they should go to school later. Start later. I would say maybe even 8 or 9. Let them sleep. Hopefully they're not staying up all night on their devices. But I mean, that's another challenge for all of us. Devices till it's time to pass out. But if they started a little later, they'd get at least some sleep. Maybe the challenge is, how do you coordinate it all? How do you coordinate it with the buses? How do you all of a sudden decide all of these young New Yorkers will be on the subway at this time and the buses instead of this time? There are unintended consequences of starting later. And then that way, by the end of the day, they're still in school a little later. Maybe they've got an activity or a sport or something. Maybe everybody's got to do something after school. And then you're heading home for dinner, I hope, with a family of some kind. At, say, 6:30. So then after dinner, then I guess you're doing some homework. You're doing some reading, trying to get to bed by 10, 11, 12 at the latest. Then maybe you try to sleep from 12 to 8, and then 8 you get up and you try to get ready to go to school, to get there to start school by 9:30, 9 maybe, but later, but sleep. I mean, the whole point of this program is so you sleep, so you get a lot of sleep, at least 8 hours of sleep, ideally more. So this whole program is investing in the youth of New York City to tell them, look, we'd rather you sleep in, start school later, stay a little later, maybe do an activity. Maybe everybody does a sport, just something you got to do, or an activity, marching band, a sport, something. And then everybody heads home. The challenge is going to be making sure every child who's heading home is heading home to a safe home, a clean home, where they don't have to worry about anything, the roof over their heads, the food for dinner, the stability of their parents' jobs, a nice, safe nest where it's the holidays all the time. We know that's probably not the case. But it would be great if when kids got to school, we knew they were going to have something, right? Something to eat. And I believe New York City is in a place where it could create a morning bar for its children, a series of morning bars. So when they get to school, they've got this morning bar. And if you're going to do a drink of any kind, I think like a light cranberry juice is your best bet. Where every kid's getting this like morning bar, maybe there's 1 or 2 or 3 flavors of peanut butter, or maybe you just say there's one flavor, but then you can have issues with peanut allergies, right? I just said it, and then all of a sudden I realized I just walked into a peanut allergy minefield. And let's just say it's a bar that everybody can have. I believe New York City can make this and make sure that every kid, when they get to school, they've got this bar and a nice size container of like a light cranberry. I think the other ones are just too much sugar in them. Love to give them just water and be done with it, but they like a little taste, a little flavor of something. I think cranberry, it's clean, it's nice. Maybe not full cranberry, but like a watered down cranberry, 50-50. And that way, every morning, they got something to start their day. New York City might as well get into the business of creating the things it's going to use. If it's going to use school buses, then let's make the best school buses. Let's make sure they're getting picked up. Let's make sure this profession is something that is rewarded enough where people are like, yeah, all right, I'm going to drive. I'm going to drive a school bus. And they're going to come from places where their profession was driving, and driving well and safe. And a school bus, no problem to them. Happy to do it, you know. But they're being compensated in a way where it's worth it for them to do it. Wake up in the morning, get the bus. Maybe the bus stays with them. They're picking up the kids, routes. I mean, that's the challenge. The goal is, ideally, is figure out a situation where kids get to go to school within walking distance. So there's a great school for children within 6 to 8 blocks where every child can walk to school near where they live. Now, if all the schools are great schools, and that's its own challenge, then wherever you live is going to have a good school. And a school, in many ways, is an anchor for a community. You're going to have families. Those families are going to have children. Those children are going to need to be educated. And by saying educated, I mean needing to know how to read out loud, not be afraid of flubs and missteps and misspeaks, and just do the best they can. And then be able to write short, powerful sentences. And then beyond that, I think public speaking, getting up and saying their name, who they are. I think all that's beneficial regardless of whatever you do in life, wherever the path takes you, wherever your talents that have been encouraged by others. And that's whatever you can do to help in a town, in a village, in a city. And that's finding that thing you enjoy doing, and hopefully there's enough there to make a living. Whether that thing you enjoy doing is carpentry, landscaping, hospital work, doctoring, lawyering, sheetrock, plumbing, neon, driving. It's finding what you like doing anyway, what comes easy to you, and encouraging New Yorkers to find and answer those questions. What comes easy to me but is difficult for others? And what would I do if money didn't matter? And keep asking yourself those questions. What comes easy to me but is difficult for others? I hope we all find something. You know, you can start by just maybe cleaning your bathroom and saying, look, I'm going to be the best at cleaning my bathroom, my medicine cabinet, my under cabinet if I'm lucky to have one, my shower or bath. Do the best I can, clean it up. If I can afford it, I'll get new shower curtains, new shower mats. And that's the flow. That's the trickle down that needs to happen. That's the trickle down that no one ever talked about. And we need a massive amount of trickle down right now. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about going through your closets, getting rid of stuff you don't wear, you're not going to wear. Maybe buying some nice things for yourself. So say you get rid of 20 things, you can buy 3 things. Because we still have to find a way to put into the economy where we can at the right level, whatever that may be. Now, if that's you can afford to go to a sandwich shop that just opened in your neighborhood, and that's what you can afford, is getting a sandwich, start there. Another restaurant opened up, give them a chance. You know, pop in there for two top. That's the way it's going to happen. If you see something open in your neighborhood, go to it. You heard of a good movie? Go see it in person at the movie theater. Now, the popcorn is where it gets tricky. I prefer at this point not to be eating buttered popcorn with peanut M&Ms in it mixed in, but sure, there was a time. There was a time you'd mix those two together, a large popcorn, buttered, peanut M&Ms. Hopefully there's a way to go back to the movie theaters, the cinemas, which I believe cinemas can be anchors. I still remember seeing Star Wars, Rocky, in the movie theater. And I think the movie theater can again be a place where we gather, safely, I hope, without fear of something happening, and be able to sit there in the dark and watch movie magic. And as I've said before on this, I think New York City should get into the business of making movies. Not 1 million, but maybe a dozen a year. A dozen of great New York movies using the 5 boroughs. People submit, their movies get picked, they get funded. I would say they're around 500. 12 movies at 500 puts us at around 6. I mean, that's a festival. 6 is a legitimate fair amount to put into the indie film industry in New York City, making a movie. Once you get it going, it's like one a year. You pick 12 people, they've made a movie, and those movies are ready to come out at a certain time, or they're staggered throughout the year. But they're utilizing New York as one of the characters, as a location, as its own thing. New York can't wait for the cavalry to come. We have to start investing in New York and bringing people back here. Bringing back people to eat in our restaurants, have a drink at our bars, go to our theaters, walk our streets. Be respectful and realize that if you show up in New York City when the sun comes up, no matter how you got here, whether it's through bus at Port Authority, or you flew into LaGuardia or JFK or Newark and came in, and the sun is coming up, it's your first day here in New York City, and some have been here for a century, then you're a New Yorker. And you can either be part of the solution or the problem. But every day when the sun comes up, we start fresh. And if you're here in the 5 boroughs, as the sun is coming up in New York City, and you're on the ground, the land that is New York City and the 5 boroughs, then consider yourself a New Yorker. Though you may come from the far corner of the earth, you're here now. What can you do to help now? Think of it as your city while you're here. Treat it the way you want your own city to be treated. Take care of the streets. Put things in garbage cans. Make sure people who serve you are compensated in a fair way, where you know if it was good by the look in their face. This is how these folks make a living. But as soon as you get here, wherever you're staying, and that's where it gets tricky. How do you find a place to stay for everybody? Now, I've heard there's a lot of apartments out there, and I don't know exactly, and this is not something where I would stop and look it up, but hundreds of thousands, I heard, that are apartments that the rent is too low. The amount it would cost to fix it doesn't make up for how low the rent has to be kept. I think in those situations, you have to go and look towards doing 10, 15-year leases and saying, look, I'm going to come in and take this apartment because it's at $750. You don't want to fix it up because you can only get $750 for it. $750 is amazing. I'll come in here. We'll do a 10-year lease, maybe longer, and I'll put in the $50 to fix this place up. Maybe it's $50 to $100. But if I come in and fix it up, I keep it at the $700. You now start making money. Right now, you're not making $750 a month because you're afraid if you rent it to someone, you'd have to fix it up. I'm saying, we'll fix it up. And maybe that's how you start filling these empty apartments, if this is not an apocryphal story. And then I think some people want to live outside, want to live in tents, I think, or under tarps, or in vans. I think they want to. I think to some degree maybe the bad things happened indoors, and they don't want to be indoors. And maybe things continue to happen that are bad that are indoors that people don't want to be around. It's complicated. It's challenging. Because right now, mental illness is real, and it is fragile. It is fragile in this world right now, as well as physical. Both of it is compromised, and there is a certain level of insecurity. Same fear you have, maybe financially. Maybe fear that you have maintaining the businesses, making sure you're able to pay rent, cover all your costs. In the book by the late, great Gilda Radner, who put New York City on the map, it's always something. And that's New York. It'll always be something, but we all have to get on the same page. We have to have the social contract. The social contract is going to cover everything. It's going to cover noise. Are we going to have supercars revving their engines around the streets of New York? It's going to cover honking. It's a social contract. Probably covers audio, video. Where are we going to walk on sidewalks, or are we going to ride bikes? Which way are we going to go? How are we going to enforce this? What is the speed limit? I saw a guy go through a red light today. It was a solid red light, and he went right through it. And I looked at him. I didn't say anything. In my younger days, I might have, but it was pure red. Where does it go awry? 1 car, 2 car, 3 cars going through red. Somebody had it getting hit, run over by this vehicle. That's why the penalty has to have some teeth in it. And someday there'll be an electrical grid and vehicles will be on it and they won't be able to go over 25. You'll get in. You'll go to where you're going. They'll probably have some type of bridge walkways where you go up and down, but then you have to figure out a way how to get folks who... But maybe by then the chairs they're in can go up those stairs, or a situation or a solution would be found. And you get in the vehicle and the vehicles go the speed, so you don't have to worry about it. The speed limit. Sidewalks. I'm curious to see what we decide to do with these sidewalks. Any place that's become a war zone, any place globally, I'm not speaking of any place in particular, or been bombed to the point where it's just rubble, you might as well use that as an opportunity to start from scratch and really dig down about, 3 stories, 4 stories, 5 stories. If you think there's stuff down there, people are doing stuff, then dig down. Start with 1 city block, some space, a main street. Where are you going to start rebuilding this? How far down are you going? How far high are you going to go? And then you've got to make sure there's grocery stores and hospitals. I thought the rule was pretty to look at, nice to hold. If you break it, consider it sold. You break it, you own it. Who's going to fix this up? Eventually, you got to fix it up. People are going to need materials, concrete, plans. I say scrape it all down. It's been destroyed. Scrape it as far back as you can until it's nothing but a construction site. And begin with that construction site and decide how deep you want to go. I'd say use it. If you can get down 3 to 5 stories, go down. Go down and use it for different spaces in the building. And then go up and decide. Is it going to be 3, 4 stories? Or are we going to build 10 stories, 20 stories? Or are we going to build a cube? Or are we going to build a main street with places on either side? On the ground floor, you've got stores. And it's like Main Street USA. You've built the infrastructure so people can have their own stores down there. Maybe somebody's selling fudge. Somebody else is doing ice cream. But you're walking down this main street and there's places to stop. Maybe somebody's got popcorn, candy, different stores, but a walking, restaurants. Those ground floors will have to be in the main street. They're going to have to be places where people can go to eat. People can go to maybe movie theaters, coffee shops, cafes, little restaurants. This has to be thought out. If all of it everywhere is not used to put something better where there was something and now there is nothing, then what's the point of it? You have to use everything as an opportunity. And inside those, there are schools too. But that's what we have to start thinking about with everything the day after. What happens on the day after? Sure, I'd like to get caught up in what was going on the Tuesday before the Big Bang, but what does that have to do with New York City? Here we are right now in New York City. How do we make it better day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year? Forward in the right direction, where everyone has access to everything. And we're utilizing the spaces we have to give people places to live, to work, to become creative. Look, if something has to become a pickleball court, because at one point it was an office, and you go in there and, there's different pickleball courts, or there's a whole floor that's nothing but cold plunges. I don't know where these floors are going to go, maybe senior housing. But this office space, this collapse of WeWork, which the space will have to be filled with something creatively, but I don't know what the costs are. And bricks and mortar is never easy. And being in any kind of place where you're serving others, you have to really love what you're doing. So I can say a pickleball court, and hey, someone could say, hey, I love pickleball. I'm going to get it started. God bless you. And say, hey, thanks for the idea. I heard what you had to say. I opened up a pickleball court, and it's cool. Got a lot of fun. We've got to find ways in small towns all over America, all over this city, to put in shops and stores and bring people back to Main Street USA to do what you can do. I don't know, do you make an empanada? If you make a great one, let's give you a storefront. What do you make? You make a soup of some kind, a stew? You do sourdough bread, that's your thing? Let's do it. Let's have one store after another. Wherever, everywhere, best you can. But we got to make it accessible. We got to make it super encouraging to bring in that tenant, that farmer, the one that's going to come in and try to make this food item that's been passed down from generation to generation for hopefully 10 to 15 years to be able to raise a family, put their kids through school, putting something in there, right? It could be caramel corn. Like I said, could be nuts. Could be a place that sells nothing but nuts. That's a great name, Nothing But Nuts. See, if I could be the patron saint of anything, I'd be the patron saint of small business, because I get it. I get what it takes to run a small business, to sell hats that someone else is going to go embroider. That's two different businesses. One guy sells the hats, the blanks. Another guy is going to do the embroidery. And then, boom, you're in the middle. What you do with those hats, those beanies, the embroidery, that's up to you. But you've put money in the economy in small business. You've thought globally and acted locally and said, look, it's the holidays. Got to give something. And a great hat to utilize while you're listening to something, to clean your home. What a better use. Keep your head warm while you're doing your, I guess, chores. We all need chores. That's the problem. No one wants to do their chores globally. They just want to go to war. So when you don't do your chores, you end up going to war. What's the chores you have to do? The chores that must be done in every nation is finding what to do with military-aged men. How do you find a way for them to have purpose beyond going to war? Finding what they can do to help the towns and villages and hamlets and cities they live in already. A massive jobs program, massive trades program. Finding, are you a painter? Or do you want to work in a hospital? And housing. Making sure they have housing. Now that's the tricky part. Housing. Housing talk can very easily veer towards socialism and communism, even though it is capitalistic. But more than anything, that is what needs the conscientious capitalism. The right amount to get started. What's fair? I know for myself that it's like it may start off low and then it may get higher, and then all of a sudden you can't raise your prices that much higher. But again, that's a tricky conversation. But I'd like to see every empty space filled with something. And maybe in New York City, 5 years is a good run. You open up your place. You're selling gelato. You do 5 solid years. Okay. That's not bad. That's something. Maybe then the next one you do, you find out what you do different. Maybe it's coffee shop. Maybe it's tapas. Maybe it's completely a toast bar where you're using toasts and toppings. I mean, I'd go to a place that was toast and toppings immediately. If it was like avocado, a hummus, chickpeas, something, and then it's got different spices and herbs, and it's nice toast. It's been cut into angles, probably. That's nicest. 2 pieces, you got me. Toast and toppings, you got me. You got a nice cup of coffee, latte maybe. We need to encourage people to open up stores, and then when they open them, we should try to buy from them. Now, look, I can't eat at a chocolate place every day, but once a week, right? I can't have bread every day, but once a week maybe. It's putting into the little chocolate shop that opens in your neighborhood, but to the right amount. It's giving it as a gift. It's getting clothes hemmed. It's getting shoes repaired, going to cobblers who are already in your, probably nearby where you live, and getting that pair of shoes, and why not fix them up a little bit? But someone's got to buy new shoes too. And someone has to get haircuts at all the different prices, and we shouldn't make people feel bad about getting super expensive haircuts. Someone's got to get those. It's not me. I don't have that kind of hair. I've got basic hair. I can get a basic haircut anywhere. I can go to a barber school, which I did. I went to a barber school. I got my hair cut. Great thing. These guys are practicing. Hey, nothing special about my hair. Just clean up in the back, little on the sides, on the top, That's it. How do you keep it? Village to village, street to street, neighborhood to neighborhood. It goes back to the clean streets, safe streets, free streets. But we have to bring small business back in a big way to New York City and figure out a way where every space now, again, someone's left. Of course, you want someone to come in and just take it the way it is and start. But you got to give them a chance to get in there, get going. It's not easy. And then when they get going, you got to go in there and you got to support them. Best you can. Like I said, new place opens up, go for dinner. Go for a drink. Get something dry cleaned there. Get a slice of cheese. See what their egg and roll on a cheese. Egg and cheese on a roll tastes like. Keep it simple, but put in your... Guy sets up a juice bar in his bodega. Get a juice. Get a smoothie. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take us looking at things as New Yorkers and go, look, within reason, how can I treat myself to a large, fresh squeezed OJ? Right? Maybe today I go to a bowl place that's 15 a bowl out the door. But that's my treat once a week. That's how I put in the economy. I'm making an intentional effort to go, look, what I can do is a cup of coffee at Dunkin'. That's how I can help. All right, that's something. That's something you're putting into the economy. Best you can. And that's what it's going to have to take to rebuild. To get through reconstruction, and we are in the beginning of reconstruction. I think it'll take 10 years for this pandemic's effects and how we live and work are morphed into this new world. But I think it's possible. I think in 10 years we can have a snowy night in New York City and just every store is lit up and it's a beautiful Main Street, USA, New York. That's my hope for New York City. My hope is that it becomes that shiny city on the hill where every storefront is filled with the person's dreams inside who wants to be there and run that store, whatever that may be. It could be a hot dog and a bun of some kind. It could be a piece of brownie, cupcake, soft cookie. Food related don't hurt. Good luck, New York. Each and every day. Good luck.